Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Simp to Pimp podcast. I am your host, Max, and today we got another special episode. This is episode 85 of the whole series. I just made that up. I don't remember what number I'm at, but it's something close to that. So we're just going to go right into it. Today, we still got an absolute crazy world we're living in. We got simps running through just everything. I moved over here, obviously, Austin from Reno, and then from Reno or to Reno from Tampa, and there was a whole charade and a lot of development when I did that, and I wrote a book and all this other crazy shit, which is super awesome, and I feel proud about myself. But all this stuff, it reminds me of, well, politically, all this crazy stuff like going to war with Iran and Ukraine, and then everyone can't do anything except live in like their house like 6 years ago, and everyone's just like there's no riots, there's no arrests, there's nothing going on, and it almost it boils down to like uh developing like as a human. I This sounds a little weird, but I have a house now. I live in a house. I don't have a house. I rent a house. And when you own a house, or when you rent a house but take care of everything for the house like you own it, you get screwed into a lot of different deals. Um, you know, the for instance, like nobody lived in this house before me, and now that I'm there, I walk in. I walk in 2 months ago, and there's like three ant piles. There's like two ant piles, two big ant piles, and then there's like just crazy dirt everywhere. And that's like instantly a war. You're like at war with these ants that don't know that you got a freaking that you signed a bunch of contracts, and you're claiming the land now. So you own this little property. These ants have no idea. And at first, like maybe the first week, I was like, okay, we'll just let it go. I have a dog. As long as she's not like trying to destroy these ants and getting attacked all the time, maybe she'll be okay. But these ants like won't let you go outside. They're mad at you. Kind of like America is just like claiming the Strait of Hormuz is like open, and then these people, that have been to the land a bunch of times, and they like have weapons now because we sold a bunch of weapons to them, and they have technology and all these different things. They're kind of like claiming stake to the land, and my little ants have no freaking idea that I'm like trying to enjoy my little backyard that I pay for and all this other stuff. So I bomb them a little bit. I use chemical warfare. I used got a couple sprays and kicked them out because because I mean they're just ants. I thought that was like it. I thought that was like the end of the story there. But they regroup. Their piles end, and they find new piles after like this is like 2 weeks in. This is like my little 2 week war I had with the ants, and then they pop back in maybe a week later, and they have one little pile that's right under my freaking outside. Not even a pile. It's just right next to the back door where I keep my dog, where I usually feed my dog. My dog food's right there, and I look in, and I'm trying to feed my dog one time, like a month after I move in, and these ants are all over my dog's dog food bowl, and it's freaking crazy, dude. They're like going to war again. They're attacking me. They reshaped it. They restructured their you know um dynamic, their organization. They clearly have like a queen bee, still a queen ant that's instructing these guys around, and so they're trying to go inside and grab my dog's dog food and drag it outside, but the door is closed and they can't fit the dog food through the door, and it's insane. And but they're like trying to go to war still. They still believe we're at war. So I did round two of like you buy like the ant killer thing again. I didn't buy a new one. I bought like a 5 pound bag, 10 pound bag maybe, and I'm filling it under the thing again, under my back door again, and seeing if that works. And you just kind of have to wait for them to react before I like open up the Strait of Hormuz to my walkway to the alleyway or whatever, and then I take the trash out. So this is maybe two. This is like a month and a half later, and I like dump a bunch of water. I'm like drowning these ants. I'm squashing all the ones inside my house with my hands and my freaking fingers and my feet. But they don't. These they're expecting casualties. These guys are expecting casualties. They're like ready for war. And so we're dragging out 2 months. I'm taking my trash out. They have a whole huge ant pile by my trash. They have a just outside my just outside my property fence. They claim stake to the freaking land right next to my trash, and they're like, "Hey, where any trash you have that's like open, we're gonna be stealing all your like leftover food possibly. And if you step on this, if you're like fixing the fence or something, we'll be there." These ants have no quit. So I took them. So long story short, I went to another, like my dog breaks out of the fence because it's like an old fence, and I have a pretty big dog. I think I brought her in the studio last time, but and she's young and she just barrels through the fence every now and then if she sees a lizard or something, or like another dog maybe. So she's out there. I gotta like try to work on this fence, and right where she broke out is where the trash is, where the like garbage cans are. So I'm like, so I buy some fence repairs, and I'm like staring over the thing, and then I get mauled. I get attacked. I get like 20 ants biting my freaking feet outside. And because I still thought it didn't matter. I thought they're like, okay, they're outside the property. They're not going to bother me that much. But they care. These ants care about like, laying stake to their land and, owning it. So I went back to the 5 pound bag and I just fucking dumped it again. And we're at 2 months and a well seasoned war. I'm like looking for the ants now. I'm ready to attack these people. I'm trying to find that queen bee and end these simps' lives. Simps, like ants, are simps 100%. I don't know how you disagree with that. They're all going to one queen. You just got to kill that queen, and then it looked like there was like two queens, and I might have killed one of them, but they were still kicking as of a week ago. So that is how you can you can relate your life to to this Iran war, if thinking it's going to end in like 12 weeks and like that's upscale. Like this is like lower scale stuff, but you want to go full scale, that these are like humans that are ant mentality, where they're not quitting. They have a bunch of rockets and guns, and I was cheating. I was using chemical warfare, and I'm like going to town with these guys, killing them every chance I can, because this is a 2 month issue that's still piling on. It's insane. And then they go, and then you go to the human world, and these people are like attacking, trying to lay claim, and get more power and have an area that's actually controlled by them, and sovereign and autonomous. These are things people actually fight for, and it's not going to end in like 12 weeks. And we're dragging on to like a year now coming up, and probably over a year, over almost 2 years, and it's just a freaking disaster, dude. It's a disaster. There's other, you know, crazy things going on. This whole just, attack on how people are, going towards just not living their lives to the fullest. I'm reading a book right now. Well, I'm reading two books, but my dog's eating one of them, so I'm just reading one book, I guess, technically right now. But I'm reading Napoleon Hill, How to Outwit the Devil, and he like talks about how he he got this interview with the devil. Well, he's like about 100 years ago. He was a very big name. He also wrote the book How to Think and Grow Rich. It's a 100-year-old book. Both of these books, well, when he wrote them, they were 100 years old. Like both these books, well, and like they're like 90 years old, but they're about 100 years old. And the one where he talks about interviewing the devil, he actually didn't. His wife didn't even release it. His wife wanted to wait till she died and then release the book. And it's just a very interesting book about how the devil is able to control people. And it's like it's an interesting. I think it's conceptual, but the way that the book's written, they seem to think it might be real or some sort of version of reality. Of course, a lot of people live in different realities just that you can interact with. But this book, he's talking about mostly the easiest way to control people is like through having them become drifters. This like idea of becoming a drifter is what they say in the book, but it's like a person that doesn't actually think for themselves. They just kind of accept reality. And you can see that with like COVID, you can see that with like different things, like just driving a car. Like, people are just completely zoned out. They're not intentional on where they're going. They're not thinking about like where they can end up. The problem with it is that like the language he's using is thinking, which I think is the wrong word, because you want to be like a thinker, obviously, and have have your own unique thoughts and stuff like that. But these people, the way like today we think of thinkers or like people that aren't really there all the time, they're like, I guess it's an existential crisis. They're worried. They're thinking about like just how they can have the easiest time, or they're not really thinking about uh, growing the world or like having humanity become a better place, or like, inspiring others or helping people and all this kind of stuff. They're just kind of trying to blend in and not get in trouble or not hide, which there's times to be like that and good like that. But you can control these drifters by just having them accept their life as it is. Um, that's like the first way. And then, if you ever become powerful, then the devil's got tricks too. That's like, oh, well, what do you like? And you can like fall into these sins of greed or lust or gluttony or, all of them, all seven. But it's really interesting how they, it's all designed around that. It's all designed for you to become a drifter. And a drifter is ultimately a form of like a simp, where you just give up on what you're doing, what you like want out of the world or what you can do with the world. And you're just like, I'll just accept this. I'll just give up. The sky's saying, the sky's green, and I'm okay with that. If I get my money and I can get my slop and, just accept life as it is, then I'll pretend to be happy. And you're not really happy. This is another thing I just thought about recently. I kind of want to finish that thought with the drifters, because there's more to it. The drifters are like just the bottom of the barrel people that can't really actualize into who they want to be. They can't, accept who they are. They can't. They're they're how I would explain them, as like just clowns. They're just people that without a purpose, that are just attached 1,000 strings to them. These boomers are very much like this, where they are completely attached, like at a societal level, with TVs, with like, regularly scheduled programs of like television, with like mortgages, taxes, jobs, you know, 401ks, ROF, Roth, you know, just retirement plans and all this like just slop that they all accepted, where they didn't build any of this. They just kind of went into the system that, you know, the people before them created, and they didn't want to perfect it or change any of it. And now they're, taking vaccines. They're believing in moon landings in the 60s, where the president called them through a freaking from a landline in the 60s to the moon. And just a bunch of, they just accept it. They're just happy with how it is. This is all, they don't even understand that like phones could be alien technology to them. You could, they don't explain anything. They don't know anything. They're just clowns. They're freaking people that forgot their face paint, can't find their animal balloons, and you stepped over their freaking car on the way to the where you are. When you talk to them, it takes 5 minutes, and you figure out these people don't know anything. These people are most drifters, most like people that just have no purpose or no drive, nothing that they understand in society, and they just like they're just happy. They think they're happy. They're walking straight into hell, as the devil says in the book. But it's just terrifying. The other book I was reading that's just got chewed up by my dog, I found out this morning, was How to Slay a Wizard, which is another awesome book. Owen Benjamin, who is an interesting guy, he's alive right now, and he was a comedian actually, and got canceled a few times for just standing up for what he believed in as a comedian, as like a true jester of the court. But that's another interesting book. He's going on. He's like on a couple podcasts. You can probably find him and talk to him. I'm not going to give you the hard sell on that one. But these people, I think I was talking about something else. It's just, I wanted to flesh out that thought. These people are like totally controlled. They're like pushing the vaccine on people, not even getting paid to do it. Not even like it's a mind control thing. It was a puppet, uh, just completely attached to whatever this mind virus is that people usually associate with liberals, or it's like you can see how they got ingrained, and then all of a sudden they're super fiery and they want to attack you about something that they have no stake in. They have no stake. They're just completely puppets to this system, and it goes deeper than that. It came like it starts at an early age, man. It starts from like the education system, which is actually one of the big players besides the Jews, obviously, and it could be the same thing, but where it's they have you just memorize history that could totally be false. That's not like verified. That's not actually uh, like and purposely very boring. They just want you to accept this this lie or this bullshit that's just all over the all that's riddled in freaking the education system. You know, oh, we have these colors. They never put, effort into the things that are important, like building a community, like, creativity. They don't want people to be creative because that's part of like how you can be pretty that's how you can like break out. That's how you become innovative. That's how, society gets awesome. They want you like dumbed down. They want you memorizing facts that are actually false, that don't actually matter, that's not verifiable. And, that goes all the way through college and you have to pay for it eventually. And, they want you, I think most people see through it. That's why typically a lot of the smarter people I've met in my life, most of them, uh, never even wanted to go to college because they saw the scam at like a very early age. I didn't really see the scam the same way because when I was in college or when I was in high school, I just like accepted the slop of my family. That was just like, oh, these boomers, they believe and sold it to most people, to their kids at least, like, oh, if you go to college and you work hard and you get a job, you'll get a house and a family and you'll live perfectly, like, and you'll be happy. And that's just turned out not to be true, like, at all. None of that is true. The going paying to go to college, or like taking debt to go to college, to have a job that doesn't matter. Most of the jobs today do not matter at all. They, like, it's just high school all over again. Drama, try to be a certain way, and then people will be happy with. And if you're like any kind of interesting, you're talked about all the time at these jobs. If you have any kind of like way to be way to like influence people or try to be happy, or you have to find different paths of like being excited, and people fucking hate you for that, dude, for not like thinking exactly how they're thinking, which isn't a thought. Which, by the way, they're not thinking. They're just drifters that are completely controlled and will change their minds in a matter of seconds, based on how their algorithm feed's going. It's kind of scary. It's pretty scary sometimes talking to these people, like, from work, and they're just driven by things that they can't wrap their heads around. They're not I didn't even catch on to this until maybe 2 months ago, but my phone is high key trying to get me to, waste a lot of my time and become addictive, because I never really got on my phone that much. I don't remember like going at my phone as I am now. I try to keep it away from me as much as possible, dude. I just went through my voicemail. I got a notification for my voicemail being 92% full. And I looked through the voicemail messages, and it's 4 months old. It's like I went scrolled all the way to April, and it's filled with fucking like loan offers. They want me to take out a loan, and they call me. I get a call. I get 5 calls a day minimum, and they leave voicemails, and they're the same, and they're consistently the same people. They're telling me their names and everything, and it's insane, dude. It's an insane, like, just that alone. They're trying to influence me to take a loan out for whatever reason, and I don't need a loan. I'm fine, but it's just that that's another trip. That's another trick they're trying to get you to do. And you have no idea how many people probably fell for that. How many people fall for like eating slop forever. Oh my God, they did a commercial about KFC. Let me go eat KFC. Just absolute garbage, total garbage. And they're just trying to fill up space in your mind. And it takes hold. a lot of the time. You can see it with the boomers. These boomers, the way it worked was the way a lot of these tricks works, or the way they got into your head and just like force you to do or think whatever they want is just repetitive uh, talking. They just continuously talk. When we had COVID, there would be messages over the grocery store. Hey, please remember to take your vaccine. Hello, please have a mask on every time. And it's like they never did that. You go to the grocery store now, they don't have that anymore. But that was a thing that was going on every 5 minutes in the grocery store. They had like little PA announcements just saying to wear a mask. And I actually wasn't wearing a mask. That's probably why they had that PA thing on. But I was like, that was one of those things I was just not standing for. And it was just predicted. So such programming that they just want to work. And it works. And it works at like the devil says in the book, and the fucking and Outwitting the Devil, it's like 98% of the population. And I kind of believe it. I almost believe it to a certain extent, dude. A lot of these, what they've turned the education system and a lot of just everything else in the social media world and how people are talking, it's like, and like the shows and everything, they're just accepting this. People are totally on board with all this, and they're just continuously eating it, and they're okay with it, and it's totally fine. And that's terrifying. That is terrifying. That's why I tried to write a book. I'm trying to like be an example of thinking outside, thinking for yourself, be able to have like debates with people, and you don't like get blocked or lose friendships, or and it goes a lot of different ways, and it's scary. It's sad to see that really we are walking among zombies. We're walking amongst puppets that are just totally okay with being absolutely consumed by this matrix that we're living in. And it's not just the education system, or these highly powerful people. There's also people on the other side that are always thinking this way. There's like women that are kind of like, they truly believe they can control every man they encounter with through lust, and they can just have him do whatever they want. And to an extent that works, but if you're like an interesting, fun person and you bring good energy, they'll like drop their guard. But even then, like it's not every girl that does that she truly believes that she's like a queen ant or whatever, and that's insane. That's like a sorry life. One other thing I think is interesting, and I kind of wanted to mention, because like in college, a lot of girls, not a lot of girls, but there would be women that would ask me like, "What is this? Why is this a thing? Why is this a thing?" And what they were asking was like, "What is this uh, this kink called like shit play? Why do people want to get shit on during sex and all this like crazy stuff?" And I didn't understand, and I didn't have an answer for them for a long time. I was like, "What the?" That's the one I don't know. Some of these other ones, like I could kind of see, but ultimately, what all like perversion of like these sacred things like having sex is, like magic is for these people, or for us, for humans, is that when you don't have a strong reality, when you're not like a happy person, you don't have control in this certain aspect of your life, it can get, and you bury it and you like fake it. Even like professional athletes who are very, so there's like a trinity, right? So in sex, there's trinities in everything. That's like one of the obsessions, the that Nikola Tesla had, that some pretty not influential, but actualized people had, whereas they like understand this Trinity principle. And the Trinity in like sex, or like the perversion of sex, is like performance, where you're tired, or you're not giving your best, or you're not adequate for your partner, like performance wise. So then you start doing things where you can't get up, so you're eating ass or whatever. And then there's like this power. So there's like performance, and then there's probably a better word for it, but it's like power. How in control are you over this um, thing, over like the other person, or your status compared to this other individual. And if the power dynamic is completely off, or it's one way or the other, there's going to be um, there's going to be more that they want to get off on. And this happens, you can almost see it with like the Greeks and like these other people, where they like having sex like with little boys and stuff is not it's not a gratification thing, or I guess it is. It's a gratification in a different way. It's that power dynamic where they just want, I have this information, and the way you're going to get it out of me is doing whatever the hell I say. And so that dynamic that has nothing to do with you know the performance of the individuals that are in it. I guess it kind of does, but it's the mindset is more in power. And then the final one, the third one, is just this lust. Obviously, it's a pretty big one, like porn or whatever, where you're the way you're going into this act, going into this magic that you're into. And I didn't want to talk about any of this stuff, because like on my show, because I wanted to like influence younger kids, but I think it's like it's an interesting point, and I just kind of realized it the other day. There's so subversion, like if I'm like if I think sex should be a certain way because I saw a bunch of porn on it, I'm gonna act this way and do these things, and then and then people are gonna assume that. So the other perversion of that, so this dives into 100 different ways, but it's like, so I watched that. So I watched a bunch of porn or whatever the fuck. Now I think, and a bunch of people think that like women are having sex with black guys all the time. And to an extent, like that leaks into reality, but that's not a huge case. But because it's pushed so much, and because it's so sacred, and because people think about it a lot, like a good amount when they're bored or whatever, it like leaked in, and now like people are willing to try that, or like go towards that because of what they saw, or what they think is like a common thing. The performance part, like, so if a girl or a guy, could be, if she's like tired, or she's lazy, or she's like not doing that well, she'll start trying to do other things to try to make sure you get off, right? So she'll like go down and give you a head or whatever, or she'll like, or she's just like, I'm tired or whatever, but I'm really into this, so she'll like spit in my face, or spit in my mouth, or like, uh, I mean that's like how it starts, and then she's like, what do you want? Tell me what you want. And then if she can't perform that thing that you're asking for or do, she will, try to move it into a different direction. And the power one is like where it gets crazy. Because I think the power one is where the guy or the girl or whatever, they feel powerless. There's something leaking onto them. They're chained to some contract or some like understanding, or they're just completely willed down by, it could be the devil, it could be a version of the devil, but it's just like when it becomes that suppressed and destroyed and ultimately like wrecks you or wrecks them psychologically, they want to like make it come into reality. They want to like have it flow through them and like leave. um they think it'll like cleanse their body. Like when you see a reality of something happening, that there's a chance it could have passed through, like it no longer is carried with you into your future, into your new world. Or you experienced all the bad parts of it, so now you're able to go out and forget about it, or let it happen that one time or something. And there's, I think that adds, that like gives a good dynamic of everything, like makes people understand sexuality before, because you do need a framework. And this happens with some with people that turn gay, or like we're gay. Like there's always some sort of instance where it happened really young. Something happened really young where somebody was taken advantage of, and girls obviously have a similar story, but it just manifests because it keeps getting destroyed, and they never really got back. They couldn't change back or fully understand what happened, so that they could get out of this trap that they put themselves in. I think that's a lot of good information. Um, I think I was going to talk about one other thing, but I'm totally lost right now. I'm a little confused about where else I was going with all that. But like I said, welcome to the Simp to Pimp experience. You gotta need to know all this kind of stuff if you want to change your life from where you were to where you want to be. Uh, that's me. I'm closing out. I'll close out on that. Thank you for listening.